Got it. Preparing. But I think I have to go to. Okay. What? All right. Hoosier Nation, Indiana. Oh, wait, hold on. Wait, we're not live yet. Hold on.
What?
My bad. False alarm. Wait 1 sec. I screwed that up. Hold on. Sorry. That was funny. Hold on. We're not live yet. Okay. Go live. Fuck that. I don't think we're on. Here. Events. What? Wait, let's see. Oh, just kidding. We are live. All right, false alarm. That was funny. All right, we are live. Sorry, folks. Everything is crazy right now. Okay, disaster averted. Everyone reset. We're going to chill, and we're going to talk about Indiana's incredible 79-71 win at Mackey Arena. The Boilermakers, as great as they were all season, with just one loss, they stubbed their toe in Bloomington. And then it happened against Northwestern. It happened against Maryland. And Indiana, as bad as it was Tuesday night, picked themselves up by the bootstraps, and Jalen freaking Hood-Schifino
Schifino
had his hallmark game as an Indiana Hoosier. And now IU has win number 20 after knocking off the Purdue Boilermakers 79-71. Welcome to our emergency podcast episode here on the Hoosier Sound, where we're the official podcast of Indiana HQ. Matt, we've been watching this team every step of the way. This was incredible. I mean, it's one thing to talk about Indiana finding a way to win this game. It's another thing to completely dominate Purdue in the second half. And for the first time, we can say our point guard crushed it. How about Jalen Hood-Schifino?
I mean, actually, before I even go into Jalen Hood-Schifino, I have to start off with this, which is that we did a podcast on, well, I guess it was Wednesday, right?
Yes, after IU's loss.
After IU's loss. And I said, look, I think IU's going to end up losing this game, guys. I think it's going to be like 3 or 4 possessions. I think they lose this game. This guy across the screen from me said that IU was going to win this game. And I thought he was clinically insane. So, Nathan, I'm going to send it back to you.
All right.
How in the Oracle, how did you predict this? Because I'm genuinely flabbergasted at this performance.
I'm not flabbergasted.
Okay, let's
and
hear
now
why.
Look, I saw a potential for Purdue to win this game by 25. I did. Like, there was a window. Like, there was a chance where Mackey Arena was crazy and it was a demon of its own, and Indiana just didn't have it. That was possible. But the Hoosiers are incredibly talented. They really are. And as much as we've watched this team go through its ups and downs this year, the 2 people you could rely on all year in this order were Trace Jackson-Davis and Jalen Hood-Schifino. And as I looked at this game, I said, I'm not really sure how Purdue stops either one. Now, it was interesting, right? Jackson-Davis didn't score in the first half. He facilitated, he distributed. But when it was all said and done, I think a lot of folks, including Purdue, overreacted to a 30-point win over Ohio State last week, where maybe they thought they had solved all their weaknesses, where in fact, when they go to Northwestern and play a good team, they have rough patches. And when they go to Maryland, a good team, they have rough patches. And I was saying, look, in this game, Purdue's a team that turns it over occasionally. Mm-hmm. They're a team that is playing through some tough stuff over the last few weeks. If Indiana could just weather the storm and keep Purdue fans engaged and make them nervous and make Matt Painter nervous and put some doubt into the hearts and the minds of the Purdue players, they're going to figure this out. And I saw this team weather the storm. And just like I expected, they forced some turnovers in the second half and they figured it out. And so that's what I saw. Again, I know a lot of people would have looked at Purdue and said, oh, number 5 in the country, and oh, they've dominated Indiana. Well, they don't dominate Indiana when Mike freaking Woodson is the head coach. And he put together an incredible game plan centered around Hood-Schifino, and that's what I saw. Now, I know, Matt, you watched every second of that game, and I know, much like Hoosier Nation, it was intense for you, and you didn't think it was going to happen until the end. What were your takeaways? I need to hear it.
Okay, well, so first off, every single player on this IU roster is better now than when they were playing under the previous coach, Archie Miller. They're just, all of them are better. Trace is a better overall player. I didn't think that would be possible for him to improve past the point where he was at, especially given his, skill set and size and everything that he does, right? Because he was already a fantastic player. Race Thompson is better now than when he was. And don't get me wrong, he still has his moments. I think he's still not 100%. Clearly, he was limping off the floor this game after a couple of things, but he's a better, smarter player now. Jalen Hood-Schifino has been a baller since game 1, but game 1, Jalen Hood-Schifino would not have had this performance. He would not have dropped 35 on Purdue's head, okay? Trey Galloway has improved as much as any player under Mike Woodson, as much as any player. He was 5'11" from the floor tonight. He almost had the dunk of the season, and 3 of 4 from 3, 13 points, had 5 assists, and not a turnover. Okay. This guy is an extraordinarily good piece for a basketball team, and he plays good defense. Miller Kopp missed 4 wide open 3-pointers and still ended up with 13 points on 3 of 7 shooting from 3. And again, the bench only scores 2 points. You win this game. I thought the bench gave you good minutes, by the way. I thought Renew gave you a good 10 minutes, even though he ended up with 4 fouls. I thought Tamar Bates, who played 11 minutes, he didn't force anything this game. He didn't have to shoot the ball. That's growth. That's a guy that was benched last game because he couldn't stop himself from taking bad shots. And this game, doesn't force it. It wasn't there. He didn't have a shot. That's fine. He passed it on. He ended up with 1 foul, and that's it in 11 minutes. And guess what? That's all we need from Tamar, right? We don't need him to be a game changer. We just need to take what comes to him. Everybody on this roster has improved from day one. Now there's guys like Caleb Banks coming in. He gave you a minute this game. Gave a turnover. But, I thought it was a decent minute that he had, right? It wasn't bad. And I thought there wasn't a play there that he made that was just oh, he's a freshman. Freshman makes a play. No, I thought he looked fine. Geronimo came in, gave you 4 minutes. I thought he gave you 2 fouls, and I thought he attempted to get a rebound or 2 in a tough situation. That's fine. You go up and down this roster. There is not a player on this roster that is not at least slightly better now than when Woodson took over 2 years ago. There's not. Trace has significantly improved as a passer, ended up with 7 assists tonight and 1 turnover. Incredible. On a night in which there's no way for him to score. The way Purdue was guarding him, they were throwing numbers, 3, sometimes even 4 guys at Trace in the paint. And that is why IU found success. Jalen Hood-Schifino, they would throw the numbers at Trace. They would run out to the 3-point line to close in on him. And he got an open mid-range every single time. And he hit 14 of 24 for 35 points, had 7 rebounds. He didn't even have to pass. He really didn't pass the ball at all.
He shouldn't have passed.
He shouldn't, because he had open shots and he took what came to him. And Woodson just kept saying, and this is an NBA thing, college coaches overthink stuff so much. The NBA goes, okay, that play worked last time. Let's run it again. And let's see if it works again. Oh, it worked this time too. Okay, let's run it again. Let's see if they can guard it this time. And the same thing kept happening. And so I'm sure in timeouts, Woodson sat across the huddle from Jalen Hood-Schifino and said, if that mid-range is open and you think you can make it, take it. That's your shot, boy. Take that shot. You can make that shot, take it. And And that won the game for IU. Those 15 words that Mike Woodson said in a timeout, like that is what ended up winning the game for IU. That's it. Also, by the way, I think this was one of IU's best defensive games. They defended the 3-point line fantastically. And by the way you defend the 3-point line, you defend it in two ways. One, you at least give a tough closeout, right?
It's a great point.
It's a great point. And two, you let people who shouldn't be shooting threes shoot the three. You go and look at Purdue's shooting numbers. Ethan Morton was 1 of 4 from 3. That is 3 possessions.
Yeah.
You live with him making 1. That's 3 free possessions because he's not a 3-point shooter. He's not a threat. Braden Smith, 0 of 3. That's fine. Caleb First, 0 of 2. That's fine. Lawyer and Newman took 5 shots. They made 2 of them each. The other 3 were heavily contested 3-pointers that they didn't make. And the 2 that they did make, each of them, were at least contested. Like that last shot by Newman to end the first half. You all remember that? That was a tough shot. He hits a pump fake. You get you in the pump fake. That's fine. And that's you live with that shot going in at the end of that. You just do. That was good defense from IU. So I thought this was one of IU's best defensive efforts. Edey ends up 8 of 17 from the floor because they actually defended him this time. Purdue shoots 33 free throws and loses.
I know.
And Purdue fans are still complaining about the refs.
The one thing I'll say about the foul discrepancy, we talked about this on Wednesday night. Purdue was going to win that battle. Okay, yes. Purdue is excellent at getting fouled. They are excellent at not fouling. This is a completely predictable trend. If IU fans are out there saying, "Oh, I can't believe it was this much," look, you're on the road against the top 5 team who is the best, one of the best in the country at winning the foul game, and so it's going to be like that. And Indiana overcame that foul trouble. And again, the comment you made about the bench, Matt, I thought was really profound because, yeah, you look at the numbers. Oh, I'm a casual fan. I don't know that much about basketball. Indiana had 2 bench points tonight. Oh, they must have sucked again. No, the turnaround between the game against Michigan State on Tuesday to what you saw today was extremely stark. They defended their tails off from the first second they were on the court, from Bates to Geronimo, to Renew, to Galloway. There was not a single possession they took off. If Purdue won just on execution, they won. Fine. But there wasn't a single possession where they didn't have that level of intensity that you need to have to win on the road in the Big Ten against a top 5 team. So from the bench standpoint, I loved what I saw. I thought there was a complete, consistent effort. 10 Hoosiers were available. We heard there was no Jay Xavier Johnson, no Anthony Leal, no Logan Duncombe. Not much of a surprise. 10 available Hoosiers, 9 of them played in the first half with the exclusion of CJ Gunn. You could see Mike Woodson just saying, hey, look, let's get them into the game. We have to get them worked in, especially if Trace Jackson Davis isn't going to go for 30 like we've seen him do so frequently throughout the season. We're going to talk about a whole lot more, folks. There are about 1 million storylines coming out of this game. You are listening to an emergency podcast edition of the Hoosier Sound. In case you haven't been here before, we do this every week. Every game that Indiana plays, we watch every second. We are the official podcast of Indiana HQ. We have weekly podcast episodes. However, when something big like this happens, you better believe we're going to be on to share this moment with all of you. The Hoosiers knock off the Purdue Boilermakers 79-71. Just a heads up, folks, if you'd like to subscribe to our podcast for free, all you have to do is search for the Hoosier Sound wherever you listen to podcasts. Join the masses. Stay up to date with all our information by following us on Twitter at Indiana HQ, as well as at the Hoosier Sound. Matt, there's so much to digest here. Jalen Hood-Schifino, to me, proved a tenet that we've heard for so long in college basketball, is that it's a freaking guards game. Breaking news. I mean, what a shocker that the team with the better point guard ended up winning. Indiana hasn't been able to say that all too frequently before this season. And you see the transformation that Mike Woodson has made to the backcourt, right? We went from Rob Finney and Christian Lander and Al Durham to this group, specifically headlined tonight by Jalen Hood-Schifino, lottery pick, okay? If you're not in the playoffs this year in the NBA and you pass on Jalen Hood-Schifino, that's your fault. Okay, outside of the top 2 or 3 picks, if you pass on this guy and let him go to a playoff team, that's your fault. Okay, GMs out there that make the big bucks. Jalen Hood-Schifino was excellent, but you also saw a game-changing, shape-shifting performance tonight out of Trey Galloway. 13 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, 1 steal, no turnovers.
Talk your stuff, Niffin.
Complete dominant force out there for someone who's not taking 20 shots. All the stuff that you do on the basketball court that isn't shooting or that isn't, that isn't throwing down dunks. Okay. He did that. Okay. All the stuff, the rebounds, he did it. The assists, he did it. The defense, he did it. Mike Woodson adopted this player from the Archie Miller administration, and you didn't really know where it was going to go with Trey Galloway. Was he going to be an end of the bench guy? Was he going to be a role player? He definitely wasn't going to be a shooter. Wait, just kidding. Trey Galloway 3 of 4 from 3 tonight, and he's now up above. He consistently has been up above 50% for a while. Matt, we know how important Trace Jackson Davis and Jalen Hood-Schifino are to Indiana the rest of the way. Trey Galloway, I thought tonight had his best game in an Indiana uniform, and he's one of, if not the most valuable players on this team outside of the 2 superstars.
Yeah, I mean, he's had multiple good games this year, by the way, and especially in big wins. I think I remember him having a decent game against Xavier. I think you look back and you think about a lot of the early Big Ten games when we just weren't really, doing well, but we were just skating by. He had big games in those. He's been a solid presence on this team. Oh, by the way, he is shooting, what is he shooting? 50% from 3 this year.
I'll get you the updated number in a sec.
It's 50% from 3. That's the updated number on ESPN right now. It is 50% from 3.
That does not include tonight. I promise you. That does.
Okay. Well, then he's shooting above 50% from 3. Look, and this is a guy that I told people coming in, he's a shooter. Like, he's a shooter. He was a shooter in high school. He was a really good shooter. He had problems with his wrist. Somebody, Romeo Langford, also had the same problem when he came into IU. And he's ended up, becoming a pretty decent shooter in the NBA. So again, IU has the players now. I would like to thank Archie Miller, by the way, for getting Trey Galloway. That was a good recruitment. And
we never challenged Archie Miller's recruiting.
Archie Miller's recruiting was always good. It was Archie Miller's coaching that was bad. And I will circle around to this. Jalen Hood-Schifino is fantastic. Like I tweeted earlier, if you haven't seen my tweet, I tweeted that, Mike Woodson needs to go in every recruit's bedroom, living room, hotel room. I don't care where he has.
Bedroom might be.
Bedroom's kind of weird. Go into any room that the recruit is in and show them Jalen Hood-Schifino tape, right?
Please.
Just show him Jalen Hood-Schifino. You could even show them Malik Renew's turnaround in this game and the way he's been playing, even though, I think he's a little bit unprepared.
Well, you'll be showing that tape after next year, I promise.
Exactly. Jalen Hood-Schifino's tape to recruits, just because what he can do with one and done players in his first year, allowing them to have the self-confidence and the belief to go out there and show what they are truly made of on the basketball court on the biggest stage in college basketball. Okay, so again, he's going to get Indiana right. And there's a lot of people out there that were confused by the Mike Woodson hire and were out on the street like, are we sure Mike Woodson is the guy for this job? Well, I hope honestly he has shut y'all up. At this point, I really he has. Who are the better coaches in the Big Ten than Mike Woodson? Strip away all the NBA stuff. I agree. And even though Izzo had a nightmare performance, by the way, if you did not see the way they lost that game to Iowa today, that would haunt you for the rest of your basketball watching career. Okay, the life you would never watch a basketball game again. If IU lost in the same way Michigan State lost today, I wouldn't feel safe up 20 with 30 seconds left.
And
okay?
after watching that game, I didn't feel Indiana was.
I was saying in the playback, because you weren't there. We've been hanging on playback. You weren't there. I was saying to them, I was like, Ant's like, oh, this is in the bag, and I was like, I watched that game earlier.
Yeah,
I was there.
Not in the bag.
Don't do this to me. It's far from any bag material.
By the way, I see folks in the live chat. I see Howie saying Purdue will never live these 2 losses down ever.
No, they won't.
I see KW saying, tell him, Matt. Yeah, I mean, look, I look at the Big Ten and I say, okay, I think if you just look at the college coaching, the casual college basketball fan, if you asked them right now, who would you rather take in the league? I think the list is Izzo, Painter, and maybe Fran McCaffrey. Okay. And McCaffrey, I think, deserves a lot of credit, taking a middle of nowhere Iowa program into consistent NCAA tournaments, consistent top 4 finishes. You might get some fringe votes of Brad Underwood or Juwan Howard strictly on college basketball coaching ability and accomplishment. For Mike Woodson to bring himself into the top tier-ish of coaches in the Big Ten through not even 2 full seasons is exactly a testament to the work he's done making over, but not rebuilding, a program that Archie Miller had in disarray. Indiana lost 7 straight, all 7 games against Purdue under Archie Miller. They lost 9 straight games to Purdue dating back to the Tom Crean era. They had a horrible time beating teams like Michigan, for instance, and Rutgers, for instance, in the course of the Archie Miller era. And you're seeing Mike Woodson develop a team and build a program and build a culture that's able to overcome all of that. And obviously for folks, you're going to look at the NCAA tournament and say Indiana still hasn't made an Elite 8 since 2002. And I understand that's going to be important for Woodson to check off here, and you'll have a chance to over the course of the next few weeks. But Mike Woodson deserves as much credit for this win as Jalen Hood-Schifino does. And I know that's going to sound crazy to some of you, but the game plan tonight was an absolute masterclass from your head men's basketball coach.
Ballsy. It was ballsy, Nathan, because you're going on the road to your rival. You have an All-American National Player of the Year candidate, probably Big Ten Player of the Year winner, by the way, on your team. And you go, I know what they're going to do. Last game, Trace was the truth, right? Like last game, they could not stop
points,
Trace.
7 boards, dominant
boards. He just every time he needed a good bucket from Trace, he got it. Right? And so again, he's like, okay, they're gonna take Trace away. That's fine. Jalen, this is your game. On the road, in Mackey, in a place that is apparently the hardest place to win in the Big Ten.
It's tough.
It is tough. Now, don't get me wrong. It's been a house of horrors for IU for like 20 years. Yeah. Okay. It has been. But Indiana just went out there and swept Purdue's best ever team. Okay?
Oh, yeah.
Best ever team. That is after going 1-1 against their best ever team last year. Okay. Sure. So I don't want to hear about any of this Purdue stuff anymore. I could care less. Okay. They are a fraud of a program. Fraud. Here we go. No. They are a fraud. I saw them talking so much BS when IU started sucking in the Big Ten, when Trace had the back injury. This IU team was overrated again. IU preseason projection, they suck. And Xavier Johnson goes down with an injury. This IU team's never going to be nothing. Jalen Hood-Schifino's overrated. Suck it. Ooh. It could not happen to a more unfortunate, group of folks. It really couldn't. And again, this Purdue team, I'm from a just outsiders. I would say a third party, but I'm not really I'm slightly invested second party. They are. I'm getting scared about them because take it from a broader point of view on Purdue. They are now 2 of 4. They're 2 for 6. They're of the last 6 games. They're 2 and 4. Okay, they have 2 wins.
They are
4 losses.
Yes,
2 of them to their dear and hated rival that they so hate so much. And again, the 2 wins were shaky, and so I think.
The 2 wins were over Iowa, who's not good on the road. And that game was at Mackey, coming off the heels of Purdue's loss in Indiana. And then your other win as I talked about a moment ago, was a 30-point win. Impressive. They covered. Okay. Against the hapless Ohio State team.
Yeah. Yeah. That was the Ohio State game was shaky to start.
It was.
And the Iowa game was shaky until Purdue eventually pulled away on free throws. Okay. So, and those are not two fantastic teams. Like I would not say go on. Especially Iowa on the road. Iowa on the road is bad. So again, I'm concerned if I'm a Purdue fan. And they're frauds and L. So anyways, I look, I was saying this to Ant Wright earlier in the playbacks. You could punch me in the face right now and I'd be happy. I'm about on cloud nine.
Don't offer that to anyone.
I'm not offering. There's a couple people that would take that for sure. I'm very glad I was never a basketball player because I have a very punchable face. But
agreed.
Anyways, I know I talk to all Hoosier fans when I say, one, thank God we moved on from Archie. Go and look what is happening to Rhode Island and just laugh. Just laugh. Also, again, I started following IU seriously when during the Crean years. Like that's when I committed to IU and was going to go. And so I started following seriously. This is the first time I've actually watched consistently good coaching. Like even when Woodson even when Woodson has a bad game, Nathan, it's like some calls I could be like 50-50. I can see why he makes that call in that situation.
There's a reasoning.
There's a justification there's rationale behind his decision making. Always. With Tom Crean, it was always confusing. He had a game every once in a while that was just a complete stinker. And for instance, Syracuse and the Sweet 16.
Don't even.
I mean, that was I'm sorry. To some people, I just brought up some post-traumatic stress, but
trauma,
some trauma, some deep childhood trauma.
Yeah.
But he would have some stinkers. I particularly remember. Now we can even go to the UNC game in the Sweet 16 that I was in person for. Just letting North Carolina shoot you out of the gym was just awful to watch. When you are like triple teaming Kennedy Meeks, who don't get me, I'm not slandering Kennedy Meeks, but Kennedy Meeks was not a game-changing player for North Carolina like the guards were. Which ended up being a story.
Don't tell me, Matt. Marcus Pace, Joel Berry. I remember. You don't. Top of my head, you don't have to even go.
I'm trying to think. Oh, the Purdue Fort Wayne game. When you're ranked nationally, you just let Purdue Fort Wayne just shoot you out the gym again. Again, Tom Crean had. We can go through all these.
It felt like with Crean there was a lot of sort of throw at things at the wall and see what sticks, right? And so a lot of times during the Crean tenure, it stuck. And you went and got yourself ranked number one, and you had some awesome wins during that tenure. And I was an undergrad during that time, and I
love Tom Crean.
All of it. And Crean was a great guy, and he stopped, with all the rule breaking and the violations before the NIL era here is taken over. But you didn't really see reasoning, rationale, understanding, especially in those rough stretches. With Woodson, like you were saying, Matt, completely different.
Yeah, completely, utterly different.
And Purdue may have won tonight, but that's not because Mike Woodson didn't know what he was doing.
Correct. He obviously knows what he's doing. Even when we're giving up 20-point leads at Iowa, he still knows what he's doing. Again, the product he puts on the floor is a winning product, and it's consistent. And that's about all you can ask for from your head coach. He loves the university. He just gets it. Like Woodson he just understands he gets it. And I think IU fans, there's a section of the fan base that's a little bit jaded when it comes to head coaching, and rightfully so, given what IU fans have had to deal with for basically the last 10 years. But I think now some of you guys, it's safe to come out. It's safe to feel okay with your head coach. And again, Woodson's that guy. He is. He's the guy. And you know what? He's going to work with Scott Dolson, I'm sure, to pick the next guy. And then that guy will work to pick the next guy. Shout out to Scott Dolson, by the way. I saw Scott Dolson. There's a video of the players coming back from the game, like to the locker room at Purdue, and they walk back through the tunnel, and there's a video of him and Trey Galloway just dapping it up, walking back arm in arm, basically, hanging out. And that's what I love to see from my AD. And again, this is a guy he's been on the forefront of NIL. Like IU was prepared for that years in advance. He's been a guy that he just gets the basketball program. Okay, he gets it. He gets it. He might not understand football, and that's fine. You're gonna win some, you're gonna lose some, but Dolson clearly understands basketball. And when he had an entire fan base that was sitting there yelling at him to go get, you insert name of high profile coach, Chris Beard. That was me. I'm sorry. A lot of other
Rick Pitino. I vividly remember
Rick Pitino, Nate Oates.
You
insert. I mean,
not ideal.
There's a lot of people
that were Dane Fife. Well, Dane Fife became an assistant, and we used that sort of. Well, and so what's interesting here, Matt,
but
is right,
he took nobody's suggestion.
No,
Nathan. He took nobody. He came up with his own idea,
exactly,
saw it his own way, reached out, got his own guy, and it worked. Like that's the guy you want at the head of your ship. Okay, that's the guy you want, and Indiana might have that.
And that's all you can ask for. By the way, if you don't care about the soft skills, if you don't care about in between the line stuff and the personality and the chemistry between the head coach and the AD, just look at the results, right? Indiana's won 10 of 13 since their turnaround. Okay, the wins and the losses speak for themselves. There are only 20 Big Ten games in a year. And Mike Woodson's won 10 out of IU's last 13. By the way, it's 9 out of 12 when you consider that Woodson missed the Minnesota game. And by the way, if you take out the Minnesota game, it's 9 wins against potentially all NCAA tournament teams with the exception of Ohio State.
Yeah.
That's the kind of accomplishment you're talking about. Wisconsin is on the bubble. You swept Illinois. Illinois right now is considered by a lot of teams as a second weekend dark horse, maybe even beyond that. Okay, you won against Michigan State at home. You handled your business against Rutgers at Assembly Hall. You won at Michigan, a place that was a house of horrors for you. And then you swept Purdue. I mean, what more can you ask for out of your head coach? You're not going to run the table in the Big Ten. It's not happening. And Mike Woodson is the perfect guy in charge for this program. It was incredible to hear that as a player, Woodson never won at Mackey Arena, which is interesting. Now he's able to come back to IU and maybe rekindle some of those former memories. I believe Minnesota was another venue where he did not win during his college career. Ralph Sampson was a big problem there. He's gone to the Barn and won. He's gone to Mackey Arena and won. How about that for your old head coach, Mike Woodson? By the way, if you ever get the chance to be in the same room as Mike Woodson, not like in a basketball room, the same room, a classroom or a conference room or some sort of thing. For us, we had the opportunity at Indiana HQ. He owns the audience. He commands the audience. You listen to him and you hang on every word that he says, and you see the players reciprocate those thoughts, reciprocate those comments. There is so much reaction across the world of college basketball. Let's start with a lot of the folks in the Indiana men's basketball family. How about Xavier Johnson, who tweeted post-game about how excited he is? One is a bad man, is what Xavier Johnson said. We're going to talk more about X in a minute. How about Miller Kopp? Someone's got to do it. You're seeing him celebrate post-game. How about Isaiah Thomas, who sent out tweets, a congratulatory tweet after the game ended, a Hoosier legend. It's great to see all these former Hoosiers pay attention to this team. Freddie McSwain, Christian Watford. It may have been under a different coach, but all of the former Hoosiers seemingly come together to watch Indiana basketball, men's basketball, on a game-by-game basis, just like many of you listening to this podcast. There was a lot of broader praise and complimentary commentary as well. How about Jalen Hood-Schifino? According to the Big Ten Network, he scored more points in this game than any other freshman did this season in the league. Of course, it helped him especially going up against two other freshman guards in Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer, and winning that matchup for a second straight game. Saw AJ Guyton responded on Twitter, excited about IU sweep. Football player Tywan Mullen tweeted out excitement on Indiana's sweep. The Hoosiers recorded their first, Mike Woodson recorded his first AP top 5 win on the road as a player or as a coach. He's doing his thing. You saw Indiana for the first time since 2010 put up a 50-40-80 game. 50% shooting from the field, 40% from three, 80% from the free throw line.
We're back.
It was funny to hear Woodson say before the game, you got to defend, you got to rebound, you can't turn it over, and you got to put the ball in the hole as the 4 things you have to do to win on the road. And, well, a lot of people somehow, some way, and I actually look at folks all the way up to NBA executives, overlook the ball in the basket part. Okay, you look at skills and abilities and potential and all this all you want. You got to put the ball in the basket. Indiana did that again, scoring 79 points for a second straight time against the Purdue Boilermakers, winning 79-71. Zach Edey was great, 26 points. He had 15 in the first half, but Indiana's defense there right after halftime really locked him down, and he didn't score for the first 10 minutes or so of the second half. Indiana took the lead to a point where it was an 8, 9, 10-point advantage. And then he said, well, be my guest, Zach Edey. Score all the 2-pointers you want. If you're not taking threes, we'll be happy about it. And so, look, if you're really focusing on the one-on-one battle, Jackson Davis versus Edey, Edey got the win. But, hey, Jackson Davis put up 10 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists, blocked a shot as well, had a really good second half, keying Indiana's ability to take the lead. We have so much more to get into here on this emergency post-game podcast episode. Indiana beats Purdue 79-71. Folks, we are the Hoosier Sound. We are a podcast, the official podcast of Indiana HQ. We are here every week giving you our thoughts on how Indiana is playing. When men's basketball season finishes, when women's basketball season finishes, we go right into the summer. We give you a podcast every week, 52 weeks out of the year. We'll cover everything top to bottom related to the Indiana Hoosiers. You can follow us on social media at The Hoosier Sound or at Indiana HQ. You can find us at Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Matt, on Instagram, we're not Indiana HQ, but what are we?
Indiana.HQ.
Thank you. You're absolutely correct. The Hoosiers win at Mackey for the first time since 2013, beating the Boilermakers by a score of 79-71. Trey Galloway was awesome in a complimentary role. Miller Kopp was excellent in his minutes, knocking down 3 after 3 after 3 after 3. I'm so happy he's taking closer to 7, 8, 10 shots a game compared to 0, 1, or 2. Lo and behold, you would be shocked to hear that Miller Kopp against Michigan State didn't shoot the ball all that much. And guess what happened? Indiana lost. Breaking news. Who would have expected that? 3 field goal attempts for Miller Kopp at Michigan State. Yep. Tonight, in his defense, Purdue gave him more looks. Kopp took 9 shots, 7 threes, made 3 of them from long distance, finished the game in double figures. The job isn't done, though, Matt. Right? No one's throwing a parade for Indiana winning at Mackey Arena.
I mean, I feel like they're a parade.
It's like it's an emotional high that you're going to wake up tomorrow morning, and Mike Woodson said it himself post-game, we got to get ready for Iowa. Iowa's owned Indiana in the Mike Woodson era, and Iowa's not a walkover. They're going to come into Assembly Hall, and they're going to try to win again and sweep the season series again. And Chris Murray's a baller, and Rabratz is a good center, and Ulis is a decent guard, and the McCaffreys are lethal from deep, and Peyton Sandford can light you up, and that's going to come on Tuesday. So, look, no one's going to throw a parade for a win. The job's not done. Indiana right now sits outright third in the Big Ten standings. They're 1 game back in the loss column of Northwestern, but based on recent results, including Indiana's win, the Hoosiers have gone a long way over the last few days in locking that top 4 seed. Let's start with the Big Ten expectations, Matt. Is it a matter of, when you look at the regular season standings going into the Big Ten tournament, hey, let's lock down a top 4 seed, give it our best effort in the Big Ten tournament, and that'll put us in a good position selection Sunday, or is there something deeper there?
there's something deeper there. I think you want to be feeling good about yourself going into March Madness. And also I feel like at the same time, you also want to get your guys rest. Again, I think Indiana is almost fully secured as like a top 5 seed. I think if they win one of the next 2 games at home, I think they're safe. I think it's safe. You can basically book it. They'll be on the 4 or 5 line. If they win, the whole other thing is they could win a couple games here and bump up to the 3. It's very possible. But again, I think they're sitting safe out of like a 4 or 5 right now. I think irregardless of whatever happens at the Big Ten tournament that we just completely get, for some reason, we have some voodoo against doing well in, which could totally change under Mike Woodson, by the way, because guess what? Coincidentally, since the Big Ten tournament has started, Indiana hasn't really had a good head coach since it started. So this is the first time that IU's had a consistently good coaching since it started. So it might actually start changing. That's my 2 cents on that. But again, I think where Indiana sits right now, there's not a whole lot they can do to mess it up, except for break your players. I think, again, like Trace and Hood-Schifino, when you can sit them in games, please, for the love of God, Woodson, sit them. I think they need to be fully healthy and ready for March. I wouldn't be totally against this Iowa game if it's a blowout in the first half for IU or Iowa to kind of
dial it back,
dial them back, and my game might get close or whatever. It might get antsy, but I think, again, you got to play with their minutes here, because again, Trace sat for 5 total minutes in the month.
Yeah, in the early
basically
stretch,
a month worth of games. Yeah,
it was literally averaging 1 minute of rest.
Yeah,
per game.
So again, that's just, again, he looked so bad against Michigan State earlier this week. He didn't really have a lot to do this game because there wasn't anything he could do. And he ended up actually sitting a bunch tonight as well. So that was probably good for him, a lot more than he usually does. But again, if we can get him back and healthy, that would be good. Again, you look at this team could add Xavier Johnson back at some point over these next 2 games.
We'll see.
Even though Woodson said he doesn't know if he's going to come back this year or not.
We don't know any more than all of you know.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'll tell you my process. Hour and a half or so before the game, check and see if Xavier Johnson is warming up. It's possible he does. It's possible he doesn't. And then you wait and see until Indiana releases a statement saying, if Johnson is out or not. I don't know any more than all of you. He's day to day. That's all I can tell you.
Yeah. There's nothing we have that tells us that he's going to come back or not. Even my friend that works for the program, I'm friends with the team photographer, Andrew Brown. Shout out Andrew. He usually will feed me pieces of information sometimes when he feels like it's appropriate. He has no idea when Xavier Johnson is going to come back. So
he broke his foot. I mean, not Andrew, Xavier Johnson.
Yeah, he broke his foot, and
that's a tricky situation. You want him to be ready.
Yeah, and not only that, he's had discomfort in his foot since it's healed, which either A, means it didn't heal correctly, or B, like a lot of people's bodies, they heal in very different ways. Yes. And so again, we may never see him in an IU uniform.
I don't know.
So again, this team has to move on.
And here's the thing: Xavier Johnson will elevate Indiana, but the team as constructed, I think, can beat anyone in the country.
And I agree with that. Though I would like Xavier Johnson to be back sooner than later.
He'll elevate the team.
He'll elevate the team. A lot of people are, Ant was pressing me on this earlier because he was asking me when, there's a whole team dynamic, right? Like, what's it like, getting a player back in with, limited games left. And it's like, I don't need him to play like prime Xavier Johnson. Okay. We're not going to get 16 and 8 like we did last year down the stretch from him. I don't need that. I need 5 points. I need 2 assists, and I need 10 minutes from him. Yeah. Okay. If he can do that, and give you, and now he becomes the backup point guard that I thought Jalen Hood-Schifino was going to be to start the year, and he comes off the bench and he's good minutes. Because you looked at Indiana's bench scoring to start the year, it was great because you brought off guys like Trey Galloway, you brought off guys like Malik Renew, and you could play Malik Renew with a true point guard and not Trey Galloway running point. There's nothing wrong with Trey Galloway running point. It's just not made for Malik Renew to run pick and roll with, right? And so again, it elevates everybody around you to have 2 point guards. Okay.
Absolutely.
And this team has gone all year with having just Jalen Hood-Schifino, the only guy that could play point guard on the roster. And he's not even a freaking point guard. So again, IU, look out for Xavier Johnson. Please rest the guys a little bit. The more wins Indiana can win, by the way, down the stretch means the more days they'll get off before the Big Ten tournament.
That's the payoff, right?
More days of rest going into the Big Ten tournament, which means they'll be fresher, which means maybe, heck, we could win the damn thing.
Who knows?
Or B, at least move our seed line up a bit to get to the 3 seed, and then who knows what happens.
You maybe get a better geographical assignment, right? You don't have to play in Portland. You can play closer to home. These are all the things Indiana can play for.
By the way, if Indiana ends up in the South region, you hear it here first. If Indiana makes it to the second weekend of the tournament, is in Louisville, of all places, for their Sweet 16 and Elite 8 games, they don't lose those. They will not lose that.
You play Houston and Louisville. Who do you think is going to have the crowd advantage?
Yeah, exactly. They will not lose that game. And it would be Indiana against Kelvin Sampson.
It'd be pick another one. Say Alabama. Who's going to have the crowd advantage?
It doesn't matter. Indiana will sell out that arena. It'll be 90% Indiana fans. Okay, for a Sweet 16 Elite 8 game. Everybody in Southern Indiana who can buy a ticket will buy a ticket. They will be there. So
everyone within a 200-mile radius is going to buy a ticket. I mean, it's going to be freaking Indiana and Louisville.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. So again, if Indiana can do that and get to that point, this season could turn from what was already special to extraordinary.
Huge.
And program changing. And it's already program altering. Right, in a way, like I think again, this shows that Mike Woodson's era is fully underway.
Respect, I think, is the key word. Right, I think Indiana's gaining respect.
It's
earning respect around the Big Ten, around the Midwest region of college basketball, across the nation, just from their results. Nothing more.
Yeah,
not pedigree, not tradition, not history. That's all valuable in telling the story of Indiana basketball. Right now, Indiana's earning respect through winning. They'll come to your house, piss your fans off, and take a W out of there and feel perfectly fine about it. Yep. It happened at Michigan. It happened at Purdue. It happened at Minnesota. It's hard to win every one of the 10 road games that you play. Indiana did the same thing against the Fighting Illini too. You go into a place, rip the fans' hearts out, take a W back home. That's it. Ball game. Indiana knocks off Purdue 79-71 in Mackey Arena. Trace Jackson Davis hit social media after the game saying nights like these are special. So proud of our team and their fight throughout this year. Never quit when things got tough. 2 more in the hall. Let's make these last ones special. Jackson Davis needs the rest more than anyone, Matt. You were talking about him just a moment ago. Just 33 minutes tonight. I thought he did an excellent job.
Just 33 minutes.
True, though.
Yes.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable job from him. Securing rebounds along the way. Led the team with 8. 7 assists for Indiana to lead the Hoosiers in that department more than anyone in the game, either on the Hoosiers or the Boilermakers. Fun comment from Sean here saying his son's team won their 8-10 local championship. Also a good basketball day for him. Hey, Congrats. Look, folks, Indiana, by the way, in one of the most exciting basketball weekends in school history, takes on number 6 Iowa tomorrow in the women's game at 2 p.m. on ESPN.
If they win that, I have just
it's it. And Indiana doesn't have to. Indiana's clinched what they've had to clinch in the regular season, but IU does have incentive to win that game tomorrow to keep themselves on that 1 seed line. You don't want to drop to a 2 for reasons beyond what we will explain here on this podcast episode. Indiana wants to finish as a 1 seed here. as far as the women's tournament's concerned. So, hey, Indiana's men's team won at Purdue. Indiana's women's team was able to go to Ohio State, Michigan, and Tennessee and dethrone those teams on the road. IU's more than just what you see at Assembly Hall, even though Assembly Hall, without a doubt, is one of the most special venues in college basketball. IU now takes on Iowa and Michigan at home to end the regular season. The Big Ten tournament starts in about a week and a half from the United Center in Chicago before Selection Sunday on March 12th. The Hoosiers knock off Purdue. Matt, there was so much to digest, so much to talk about tonight, a million storylines. We'll be back on Wednesday after Indiana takes on Iowa at Assembly Hall Tuesday night. That's what our next podcast episode will be. The Big Ten keeps rolling along. What are your final thoughts as Indiana wins for the first time in West Lafayette since 2013?
Monumental win.
Huge.
First time to win. It was the first win since the Sheehy game, right?
Correct. Yes. Indiana won back-to-back games in 2012 and 13 at Mackey by 1 billion points. And yeah, the Sheehy game in 2013 was one a lot of folks remember.
Yeah. So again, huge first win in 10 years at Purdue. Indiana gets back as a program, having 10 or 5 or even 3-year stretches where you don't win at places, I think is going to start to become unacceptable. And honestly, is probably going to become non-existent under Mike Woodson if he continues to coach the way he is. Again, you've gone and you've beaten Michigan, the team that you had struggle against. You go and you beat Purdue, the team that you had lost like 8 straight against last year. Right now, it continues. All these streaks continue to be broken under Mike Woodson. You get back to the tournament for the first time in like 6 years. Like again, Woodson's doing the right things. And again, I think I said this year, like being top 3, top 4 in the Big Ten, competing for a title, beating Purdue, making a run in the NCAA tournament, like that was the goal for this year to obtain. And that was the logical goal. And right now we're sitting right about around where I thought our goal would be. Like again, and he's doing everything right. I would like a little bit more recruiting positives to come out of this.
Sure.
Because again, we haven't had a recruit commitment since last summer, which is insane, by the way. Insane that Indiana's gone.
Is it Renew? Who was the last one?
Renew was the last commit. Yes.
Man.
Yes. Malik Renew, who is currently on this roster, is the last
playing key minutes in a big road
win.
The
2023 guys, Cups and Shakai Newton, committed
a while ago. Yeah.
A long time ago.
Yeah.
So again, we're still waiting on news on 2024. That's fine. I'm assuming we'll get some this summer. I would be interested to see how the roster construction, we'll talk about this more on a future podcast, but roster construction goes into next year as far as scholarship situation goes, because there's a bunch of guys on the roster who could come back for another year. Some like Trace will probably choose not to. That'll be an interesting story to see who plays that Michigan game and goes through senior night and who doesn't.
Well, Trace said he would. He told Stadium Jeff Goodman that he would. Jalen Hood-Schifino will not be here next year, but he might as well give a speech.
Right, exactly. He will not be here next year. Xavier Johnson's out of eligibility. He will not be back. I think Miller Kopp can come back next year.
Race is out of eligibility too.
Race out of eligibility as well. So yeah, there's a bunch of guys that will not be coming back, but there's holes in the roster now. There's spots open. I'm going to be very interested to see what happens with that. For instance, a top 20 guy just decommitted from Minnesota. Is that somebody that IU will want to go after? Possibly a 5-star guy. Grad transfer portal is going to probably be big for IU this year. You're probably going to need a seasoned point guard to come in. Where do they go looking for that? Who becomes available? All that stuff is different. But there's now, instead during Archie Miller era, you felt like you had to grasp at a dream to pitch them a dream about something.
Like temporary Band-Aids is how you felt.
Yeah, exactly. There's also temporary Band-Aids. This time, Woodson can actually walk into somebody's house, walk into a meeting with the kid and probably their agent and their family, and go, look what I did with this player. Look what I did with this player. Look what I did with this player. I think I can do this with you. Which is a pitch that is hard to argue against.
Exactly.
When you have evidence that proves that you are a good coach, right? And you have NBA players that back you up on this, unless you're Josh Smith, who back you up on this. But again, IU is in a great position. There's a fantastic win. I couldn't be happier for the guys in the program, obviously, and the fans. Like, we get to celebrate. This is awesome to celebrate with all y'all. But looking forward, the program's in a good spot. And I like to take the larger picture view normally when these things happen. I've done this on almost every single podcast after a big win, but it's true. I think it does need to be said. Again, the way in the direction that the program is going is good. It can hurt when they play like garbage against Michigan State.
Yeah.
And you can go, is this team for real? And then you go back and you look at IU's record over these last couple games, and outside of the Maryland game and the Michigan State game, who are both on the road, it's green, bro. It is just straight up green. It's a green streak of games, 2 of wins against your bitter rival, wins at home over, 2 wins against Illinois on the road and sweeping Illinois. These Purdue or Illinois was supposed to be the preseason favorite next to you. You win both of those.
Michigan
games.
Was supposed to be preseason.
Michigan was
their
a
house and won.
favorite. You go to Michigan, you win. You probably will win at home at senior night because IU does not lose on senior night, and I like that that's a tradition at IU. Again, like this IU team,
jinx.
I mean, it's not a jinx. I mean, I've actually seen most of the IU. No, I've seen most of the IU.
No, I'm just saying, knock on wood, incoming.
But for real, IU should be favored in that game. They are at home. So long rant over. I hope you guys feel as secure as I am in the future of this program and the fact that we're in good hands. We're in good hands.
Yeah, I agree. Even if they lose, to VCU in the round of 64 or whatever, there's going to be some temporary frustration. There should be, because that's how your season ends. But Indiana's doing all the things that they need to do correctly. NIL looks great. Mike Woodson, culture-wise, has established something encouraging here. He sounds like he knows what he's doing. Clearly, the results reflect that. He's developing players, and it's exactly the kind of stuff you want to see. For me, as I look at this Indiana team, I mean, Miller Kopp, frankly, I was really hard on him, I think, at the start of the season, and even dating back to his first year at Indiana last year, where I said, man, if you're going to be on the floor and you're not going to take shots, if you're not going to defend, I'm not sure how valuable you are to this team. And all he's done over the last few weeks is completely re-identify who he is as a defender. Is he perfect? No. Is he going to make all Big Ten defense? No. But he has found another level defensively compared to what he had before. Meanwhile, the defensive improvement is nice. On the offensive side, he comes out and he continues to be Indiana's most lethal threat from deep. Indiana tonight shot 15 threes, and you needed to make a good chunk of them. And once again, they had another game where they shot above 40% from deep. Indiana's a good three-point shooting team. I want to see them lead into the three-point shot more. That's my first final thought. The second final thought is Indiana's 2 biggest spreads this season as an underdog were at Illinois and at Purdue. What happened in both of those games? Indiana didn't just cover, okay, folks? They ended up winning. And the thing is, right, even if you look back to that road game against Kansas, Indiana was just a 5-point underdog, had injuries over the course of that game that really affected their cause. When they're underdogs in these tough environments, if they can get out of the game playing 40 healthy minutes, they can beat anyone. And the good news is, from here on out, Indiana doesn't play a single road game the rest of the way. Folks, that about wraps it up for our emergency podcast episode of the Hoosier Sound. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your support. Thank you to our live audience. You're all beautiful people. To hear more fantastic episodes like the one you heard today, be sure to follow us at Indiana HQ or at the Hoosier Sound to make sure you don't miss any in the future. You can also go to our website, indianahq.com, to find it all in one place. Thanks for bearing with our technical issues at the start. Lastly, if you enjoy our show, leave us a review, tell a friend, share our links. That kind of support really helps us grow this podcast and reach more passionate IU fans such as yourself. But as always, thank you for listening, Hoosier Nation, and we will see you next time.
Peace and love.